Yes, another super cheap car from an insurance auction. Except this one isn't crashed, instead it is a repo, and that is my first repo I've ever done. I found this Ford Expedition on IAA and it had a buy it now price for $600. Little did I know I was looking at one of the worst flip cars I've ever had in my career. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I mean, this car looks okay, we have decent, I don't know, everything. It's not super crashed, it has some rust, but nothing insane, and this price point, I think this makes sense, so let's just buy it. And it hasn't even made it off the truck yet, and I'm already starting to realize that the photos on the auction didn't give me the entire picture. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my very first repo. Now, if you're not familiar with the auto auctions and insurance auctions and stuff like Select Remarketing Group, repo stands for repossession, meaning that somebody had a loan on this car, they failed to make their payments, and the bank, well, took their car away from them. There's definitely mixed reviews on repo cars because frequently, if people can't pay for their car loan, they're probably not going to be able to pay for car's maintenance. And like in the case of this car, they probably also need to cut off their catalytic converters to pay rent or something. Actually, the previous owners of this car probably did not have to pay rent because they lived inside this car. Now, I don't know that for sure, might be a speculation, but based on the amount of snacks and food and blankets and children's toys inside the trunk, I would not be super surprised if this car was actually slept in on a more or less frequent occasion. However, so far this car has started and drove just fine. Besides having that flat tire and extremely loud exhaust, it might be actually usable. So without further ado, let's get this car in the air and see what we can find. Now, as the majority of my subscribers will know, I mostly deal with German cars. Which is very, very different from a Ford Expedition. However, most of you guys will also know that I am a car dealer. As of relatively recently, approximately a year ago, I opened up the shop and got my dealer's license. Now, I've been mostly dealing with cars I like. Audi Allroads, Audi this, that. Things that, well, most people, the majority of the public doesn't really care about. And as heartbreaking as that is, I realized that in order for me to be able to actually afford this place and not fail as a business owner, I need to diversify my portfolio a bit and try and, I don't know, buy and sell cars that are more likely to be sold and have a larger customer population. So I've been focusing on buying super cheap cars, probably under $1,000 from auctions that may or may not sell for $2 to $3 grand, and that way I can make some profit. Because that Audi Allroad that I just mentioned, that thing sold for $150 profit after I put in approximately 100 hours of work into it. That was definitely a passion project. I definitely thought I would be making money on it when I sell it, when I was buying it, but with time, I realized that that is not going to happen, and that's okay, because I got to enjoy that car. I always liked wagons, and I got to drive around in it, even though I didn't get to keep it. And even though this technically isn't something I would normally be interested in, I've had my eye on Expeditions for a little bit, mainly because I really like their towing capacity. This is practically an F-150 in the three-row SUV form. I mean, 9,000-pound towing capacity is very significant. This frame looks very, very solid and very big and very heavy, which is great because the experiences I've had with body-on-frame Toyotas have not been great. Well, there's at least one specific example. So ever since I've been very scared of anything body on frame. As a German car enthusiast, I'm very used to my unibodies. I like my Touaregs that also have a significant towing capacity of 8,000 pounds. But looking at this frame, I don't see any significant issues. Sure, the bottom of it has some surface rust, but it's all solid. There's no perforation. Here's our missing catalytic converter. Even though our frame rails are perfect-ish, the rocker panels are demolished. There's basically nothing left of them. However, one thing I did notice, well, first of all, we are missing our spare wheel, which is unfortunate since we do have a bad tire. That is definitely too far gone, as you can see by this giant crack. The probably most concerning issue I'm seeing is these body mounts. As you can see, that is rusted out from the body, and our frame, it no longer holds down the back of our body. Again, I'm not super familiar with body and frame things. I'm sure this is not good, but potentially this doesn't keep the car from being drivable. There's definitely some seepage, slightly more than seepage from our oil pan. However, the top of the motor looks dry, which is great news. The oil pan, I assume, is not too hard to take off on these. Either way, that is not something I'm going to be fixing. I think we're just fixing the exhaust tire, and then we're going to drive it around and see if this thing is sellable as is for, you know, maybe $2 grand. As it turns out, starting fluid is a lot more potent at blowing up than whatever it was I was using. I can't remember what it was, but it worked. So good to know for next time. And next time I'm definitely wearing safety glasses because that was very aggressive. And I'm not gonna lie, my heart skipped a beat there for a second. Now I did discover something else under the car that is a little annoying, a little disappointing. We are missing our motor for the transfer case. I ended up finding it on the skid plate. So luckily we have that, but chances are it doesn't work. Looks like somebody has cut the hot wire for whatever reason, and the ground is also not connected. Not really sure what this has to do with. I'm guessing chances are that this motor just no longer works and they took it off so that the car doesn't get stuck in 4 low or something like that. I think our next item on the to-do list would be our catalytic converters, which I don't really know how I'm gonna fix. First of all, I'm not a good welder. I could just fix this the same way it was fixed before, by replacing this with another one of these flexible pipes. And this definitely looks like somebody has welded this in the past. We have some flux core wire hanging out over here. So now all we have to do is come up with a way to connect this to that. Let's see if I have any properly sized piping first. I did not, so we're going to AutoZone to see what we want to do next. Again, we could stick with this flex pipe that, I mean, it is an option. It's pretty cheap and easy to install. And we have these pipes that we could also use, but then we have to weld, and still the results are similar. And considering the fact that this is a very cheap car, probably not worth the trouble. I stood there and debated for a little while, but I decided to go with flex pipe. Simply because I just don't think this car is worth good repairs. Now I admit, actually welding in a piece of metal would have been significantly more reliable and higher quality repair, but I think with this car we just don't need to do that. I just don't feel like spending a bunch of time welding and trying to get that downpipe off, potentially breaking off the studs. It's a little too risky, and risk to reward ratio is just not there. So let's just throw this guy in and call it a day. There we go. There's definitely a bit of a smell in here, and that's to be expected. The car seems to think that oh yeah, the hatch is probably not. Our doors are open, our hatch is open, it's fine. Oh, she's loud. It's got windshield washer fluid. It might just be water, but it's got something. The wipers are smoked, but okay. The radio does not turn on. The air, I don't know, it actually might be AC. It's kind of chilly outside, so I can't tell if it's AC or just outside area. Let's check our, well, we have no coolant temperature yet, so no point in checking our heat yet. I mean, all things considered, this interior is not bad. That is kind of interesting. And everything else, I mean, more or less acceptable. Oh, that's cool. You get to check on your kids in the back. Sweet. Oh, what do we have here? So I don't want to give up too much information. This is gonna be blurred, but this says correctional facilities something. It's fine. I'll get to digging through the interior a little later. Let's just drive it first. Okay, windows work. That's good, because the smell was getting a little old. Oil pressure looks good. We have quarter tank of gas. Coolant is still low in temperature, which is fine. All right, let's go. Okay, we're shifting through gears. We're accelerating. The stench from the no cats is significant. Okay, we're doing 30 miles an hour. I mean, it hasn't exploded. Now, obviously, we're going to have secondary O2 sensor codes because we have no catalytic converters. In fact, I don't even think we have these secondary O2 sensors. I didn't see them anywhere, so they were probably cut out along with the cats. I just want to make sure there's no other codes that are really concerning. And boy, are there a lot of codes. Some of these might be from battery issues, some of these might be old and outdated, but there's a lot to think about here. We have immobilizer faults, we have fan control module faults, we have faults for the alternator. Luckily, it seems that everything functions as it should. Fans were working, it wasn't overheating, and the car was generating electricity. The battery was not dying. Now I need to get inside the trunk and clear out all this stuff, but it doesn't seem to open because of this minor rear end damage. We got bread. All right, yeah. There's some useful stuff here, like this little inverter. I also did see some tools, so that'll be good to just add to my collection and whatnot. And by the way, if by any chance the old owners of this cars are watching this and you need any of this stuff back, feel free to reach out to my email in the profile. There we go. I found some paperwork for the purchase of this car from the previous owners, and looks like they bought it for $1,100, which is actually a pretty good deal. That's exactly what I paid for it too, or very close with all the fees included. It's kind of sad that they ended up having to do a bank loan for an $1,100 car, but it is what it is. You know, we can't, yeah. Guys, so we now have confirmation that these people were living in this car. These are letters from a place saying that they are utilizing a program where they allow people to stay in their parking lot and sleep in their car in their parking lot. There's some Hot Wheels here too. Guys, honestly, I don't even feel right recording this, but I don't know, I mean, I guess that's what, you know, this YouTube channel is about. It's me doing things that I do, and this is all part of it. Yeah, there's some Hot Wheels here. Got a pretty nice Ram T-Rex, or, oh, it's a Rebel. But as far as I can see, there's at least 3 people who are living here, a family of 3. Obviously, we have kids' toys, we have female hygiene products, hair ties, and the paperwork is named to a male name. So, yeah, it's pretty sad. So, which is why I decided to. Well, first of all, I tried to look up the owner on Facebook. I didn't find him. So we're gonna list the car up for sale or post up this video. Maybe they'll find us. And I'm putting all of their stuff in bags. So on the off chance that they reach out, we're gonna give them their stuff back. Stay in school, kids. I don't even know what to say here. Let's just finish this up. There's some homework with some kids' handwriting on it. You know, I don't know if I'm ever gonna buy another Repo car, to be honest with you. This just got too personal too quickly. I saw that the owner of the car, the male, he is 3 years older than me. So, like, I mean, very close to my age. These rear seats are power activated, and this submodel does have them. That's pretty cool. Look at that. Respect to Ford for coming up with that. I really like this. That's a very nice function. There were rodents living here for some time too. Okay, guys, I definitely have lost the energy for today. We're gonna call it. At this point, I got sick enough of the car that I just did not want to deal with this. So I just ended up cleaning it up, taking some pictures, and listed it for sale. It started with a price tag of $2,200, and then I kept lowering it, denoted all the issues, and just told everybody the story of how I got the car. Right, so this little old girl has been on the marketplace for a solid month, maybe a month and a half at this point, and well, it hasn't been selling. I haven't had anyone come check it out. Because I guess there's just one too many issues listed in the description. And I see no other options but to try and start knocking out those issues, because now I have some free time. I don't have anything else to work on. So we might as well try and fix the problems on this thing and see if we can fix it up a little and list it up at a better price. This thing was pretty cheap off of Amazon. I should be able to just plug this thing in and find out whether or not it works. And the way we're going to test that is by climbing into the car and, well, I guess trying to put it at 4-wheel drive and see if all 4 wheels spin. Okay, so flipping the 4-high switch does nothing, but it could be just because the car is not running. So let's start it up. Okay. Oh, we got 4 wheels. Look at that. So that was easy for a low. Oh yeah, and now 2 high. Oh, interesting. So we got 4-wheel drive even when we're in 2 high, and that's probably why the front axles feel weird when you make sharp turns. So maybe it's the 4 high being engaged instead of 2 high. It's now the next day, and I tried to start it and nothing happened. I have 2 fully charged jump starters connected to the battery, but when we go inside and try to start it, I get nothing. I don't get a beep. I don't get any lights on the dash. We do have headlights and taillights. You can see them, but That's it. I can't start it. I need to get it out of my shop to work on other things. I don't know why it's not working. I mean, the battery is very clearly dead. Because when I disconnect the jump starters, the headlights do go off, meaning that the jump starters are the only thing feeding it. But regardless, why won't it start on jump starters? I have so much stuff to do, and it's not on this car because I'm still waiting on the catalytic converters. At least we got horn. So now I have no choice but to try and diagnose this no start condition, and I'm guessing it's our starter because I don't know what else it could be. So we're just gonna test if the starter itself is good right now. I have that lead connected to the one going to the starter, and this one is just grounded. And then we're going to do this. Huh, nothing happens. Well, the ground is definitely good. That guy is hooked up. Nothing. That's weird. Maybe our starter is indeed bad. That should have definitely started it. I have no idea why it wouldn't work. Okay, I did end up removing this piece of the exhaust as well as the flex pipe that was here. This guy. Either way, we're going to be replacing this whole section because that comes with the new cats. So I'm not really... This was going to have to come off anyway. And hopefully that's going to give me a little more room. Because I honestly... couldn't even touch the bolts before, but now at least, yeah, I can feel for it. And I gotta tell you, removing the starter on this Ford motor is an absolute pain. This was awful. It took me multiple hours. And I had to come up with some pretty creative wrench setups with extensions and wobbles and stuff like that to get some of these bolts out because they're very hard to reach. Come on, get out of there. Don't be any more of a pain than you already have been, please. That was plenty. All right, we can finally figure out whether or not we wasted all this time working on this thing. This guy here is what I was referring to when I was trying to clean this thing up, and it looked like the entire thing was spinning. Yep, I wonder if that means that it's broken off down there, and that is no longer making contact inside of the solenoid, which is why it no longer is able to send the power to the starter. The thing is that when I did try and test this theory by connecting power directly to the starter, nothing happened, and I wonder if that was just because I had a bad connection. We're about to test that. Because technically, even with this situation, the starter motor should spin when I give this thing 12 volts. Ooh, nice. Okay, so that works. Sweet. Now the same thing should happen when I do these two. This guy here is what actually gets power from the battery when it's installed in the car, and then this here is what activates the solenoid to send this power to here and then activating the starter. So theoretically, when I give 12 volts to this, if our issue is the starter solenoid, this thing will not spin. So here's our 12 volts to these two leads. Okay, so so that works. Basically what this is telling me is that our starter works fine, and I pulled it out for absolutely no reason. Okay, there's a possibility I figured out what it is, and it makes me feel incredibly stupid. When I was trying to diagnose the transfer case issue and four-wheel drive, I plugged this out at some point during testing and I never plugged it back in. And there is a slight chance that this is all that we were dealing with. Now the key doesn't even want to turn in the ignition. That's kind of odd. There we go. Oh my God. That's all that this was. Yep. We got crank. I win the Idiot of the Year award. Can't make this stuff up, guys. Can't make this stuff up. I can't believe I did that. That's all that we were dealing with. For some reason, I thought that the transfer case is not that necessary to be plugged in for the car to start up, but I feel like this is an Audi move. This is something Audi would do, is have you not be able to turn on your ignition when you have a transfer case motor unplugged. Okay, well now we carry on because we still need to figure out what's going on with our four-wheel drive. Honestly, I don't really have to fix that because when I think about it, I technically could just sell the car in permanent four-wheel drive. I will just, let the buyer know that the four-wheel drive does not want to turn off and call it a day. A couple of less clicks and this thing is good to go. Now we're just waiting for our cat. I'll remove this and finish up our transfer case motor situation. Okay, our transfer case motor is in place. Hopefully that's going to work. I'm not super confident because there's a solid chance we have an issue with something else, but while I was down here, I noticed a fuel smell. And considering the fact that I'm by the fuel tank, that is slightly concerning because technically there's not supposed to be any. This thing is supposed to be very sealed, and well, it doesn't seem to be. I did notice that our fuel filter looks incredibly old and very rusty, and it even looks wet. And the fact that it looks wet makes me think that it's probably rusty to the point that it leaks fuel. So I'm going to replace that. Replacing the fuel filter turned out to be very, very complicated because of how crusty it is. All of these lines were incredibly seized onto it and practically impossible to remove. So I ended up having to cut some hoses and managed to install the filter, but I didn't really record it because at this point I'm just so sick of doing everything on this car and I don't feel like recording it anymore. I just want to get it over with as soon as possible. And then, of course, when I do finally get to the exhausts, the studs and the nuts to them are seized up and don't want to come off, so I have to cut them and weld and do all kinds of things to them. Until finally, it's all back together. It's coming along, the exhaust is in, we should be good to go. Looks like we do have a leak from up here. I'm going to try and tighten that down. Okay, something I'm noticing is that it seems to run significantly worse than it used to, and I wonder if that has something to do with the oxygen sensors, the primary oxygen sensors that we've put in. I thought that with the exhaust changed, it's at least gonna be like an okay car. Like, it's gonna look ugly, but at least it'll be like very drivable. What is happening here? So 4x4 is engaged, and that really messes with a lot of drivability of this car. Something I should have done a long time ago is check the fuses. There is a 4x4 fuse, and unfortunately that is good, so that's not our issue. However, there is one more fuse box under the hood. There we go. That has a fuse for the whole 4x4 module, and that is right over here. So it's completely missing. So potentially I've been messing with this for this long for no reason, and that's all this was. We just need to throw in a 20 amp fuse and maybe that's gonna work now. By the way, something I have not mentioned is the fact that it's been ages. It's been ages since I touched the Expedition. It's been like, I'm pretty sure I got that before winter, and now we're getting like into springtime. It's finally starting to warm up. So it's been a couple of months that that thing just sat there. I have had it listed for sale for a long time, and actually somebody may be coming to check it out today. So I was like, maybe I should just check the fuses just in case that's all we were dealing with. And well, now maybe that is all we were dealing with. All right, do we think this thing is gonna be dead? It has been quite a while. Has some life. Oh, wow. First time, baby. There's some beeping and it doesn't show anything on the message center, but that's okay, right? Okay, so I don't think I hear anything. Oh wow, yeah. She's got quite a dead battery, I think. Gonna rev it up to try and give it some extra volts. Neutral. And I don't think I hear. Oh, there's a 4x4. Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, so let's try and shift out into too high. It doesn't say anything on the screen, but we can just try and assume that it's fine. Just having some electrical issues. Things are just blinking. Probably dead battery stuff. I do want to make my money back. I think I have about 1,300 spent on this, so as long as it's something above that, I will take it and run with it, because I want this thing freaking gone. I think for now he's just coming to look at it. I don't know if he's gonna follow through or not. I'll keep you posted. Okay, so we do have a bunch of codes in like every single module. Okay, so we have OBD, engine disabled by PATS, whatever that means. Speed sensor malfunction. Do we know that is an issue because our speed gets misread. The TCM, voltage low. So I think it's probably just voltage issues. Yeah, communication with the TCM and communication with the instrument panel. So it's either developed a new electrical issue due to sitting for so long, I don't know, maybe even mice got in, or there's water getting in somewhere, or this is just bad battery things. The buyer's coming right now, so I'm gonna let him take a look at this and make his own decisions. If he doesn't take it, I'll keep trying to diagnose this and maybe throw in a new battery, see what happens with the new one. Oh gosh, it is jerky. 4x4 shift in progress. Did it actually shift though? Stop vehicle. You know what, maybe because of the speed sensor issue, it doesn't know that it's stopped and it doesn't want to shift out, because that'll damage things if you try and shift out of 4 high or 4 low. So we need to figure out what's going on with our speed sensor. Okay, the buyer just came by and he's going to think about it and get back to me. He has a couple of other cars to check out. In the meantime, we're gonna see what is causing our speedo issues. So I have all 4 wheel speed sensors pulled up and we're gonna drive and see what they do. I mean, looks like they're all reading pretty appropriately. Okay, the wheel speed sensors are reading 30. The speedometer is showing 50. So it's definitely not the wheel speed sensors that are the issue. And this is in kilometers, so it's even more of a difference. But the trans doesn't shift very smooth. There are 2 different types of speed sensors in the car. There's 4 on every wheel, and there's 1 on the transmission. And I think that's the one that's on the transmission that is giving us a false input for whatever reason. So maybe we just need to replace that sensor. And having changed that, it should shift much better. And maybe that would even allow us to shift out of 4 high. The buyer never circled back to me, and I can't really blame him. As it turns out, the vehicle speed sensor, the VSS, is located in the lead frame, which is inside of the transmission. Even though that is relatively serviceable, the parts are hard to come by because all I've been finding are the ones for the newer generation Expedition and the older generation Expedition transmissions. Okay, at this point I have done some research on the lead frames for these cars, and well, there's not a lot of options, in the sense that it's either you spend $400 for a good one, or you spend $100 something on a Chinese one that tend to break a lot, very frequently. And well, as I think you guys could imagine, I am not willing to spend $400 on this car, not anymore. I already have $1,500 invested. It doesn't make sense for me to spend that much more money on it. I have decided to junk it. Well, at least to sell it at a junkyard price to someone who buys junk cars. 500 bucks. 500 bucks is what we are getting for this car, and well, it is what it is. It was an epic fail. Yeah, that's all I've got to say. We've lost about $1,000 on it, and a lot of time. It is what it is. It's part of the business. You win some, you lose some. Yeah. And on that terrible disappointment, I hope you enjoyed this video, at least more than I did. And if you did, make sure to subscribe and also learn from my mistakes.